What's up everyone, welcome to my ranking of the top 10 bosses in the Seki-Souls-Borne games. Having played through all the games recently, I wanted to make a video to show my thoughts on what I think are the 10 best boss fights the series has to offer. This list is purely my opinion, and I would love to hear yours, so be sure to sound off in the comments. I didn't just factor in difficulty when it came to these bosses, but overall quality and how much I enjoyed the fights were the main factors. That being said, let's get on with my top 10 boss fights in the Seki-Souls-Borne series. Number 10, Lady Maria of the Astral Clocktower. I had a hard time choosing between this fight and the fight against Gehrman. I ended up going up with this one because of the difficulty difference. Gehrman can be pretty trivial, and that's not a slight against him as a boss. If anything, it's a praise to Bloodborne for preparing you so well for the potential final boss of the game. Lady Maria was one of the first hunters under Gehrman, and ended up committing suicide because of her guilt of what happened at the fishing hamlet and the Hunter's Nightmare. She wants to badly protect the secret of the nightmare that she resorts to the blood arts that she swore off. This fight isn't too difficult if you're comfortable with the parrying system in Bloodborne, but if you miss one parry, she will decimate your health. Her attacks get more powerful as she starts resorting to the blood arts in the second and third phases. And why not throw fire in there too? Overall, this fight was just very enjoyable and left me feeling good and accomplished after. Number 9, Dragonslayer, Ornstein, and Executioner Smo. The boss at the halfway point of Dark Souls 1 is arguably the pinnacle of duo boss fights. It pairs you up against one of the legendary Knights of Gwyn, and his companion that might be just as powerful. Although the fight is 2 against 1, it never truly feels unfair if you are patient. My favorite part of this fight is what happens when you kill either Ornstein or Smo. Once one of them dies, the one that is still alive absorbs the dead one, and regains all their HP as well as new attacks. This provides players with a choice on who to kill first, and was the first true Phase 2 of a boss fight in the series. Not only does it affect the fight, but also the rewards as well. The pair of bosses complement each other perfectly as well. Ornstein is quick to attack and can lunge at you from across the arena. Smo, on the other hand, is slow, but hits like a freight train. In my opinion, this was the best fight in the base game of Dark Souls 1, and one of the best overall in the series. Number 8, the Nameless King. Okay, people had been hyping up the Nameless King fight for my entire playthrough of Dark Souls 3, and it did not disappoint. When the Nameless King rode in on his Stormdrake, I was legit fanboying. The fight only gets better in the second half when the Nameless King absorbs the power of his Stormdrake and goes straight Super Saiyan. The lore behind the Nameless King is also amazing. He's the firstborn son of Gwyn, but decided to betray his father and side with the dragons during the war. Gwyn was so angry with him that he erased his name from the history books, removing any possible trace or evidence of him, and leaving him as the Nameless King. The Nameless King is very punishing in the second half of the fight, especially with his delayed attacks, and it truly causes you to be patient, and definitely causes you to have good timing and learn his moveset. My only problem overall with this fight was a slight camera issues at the beginning, but besides that, it definitely earned its spot on my top 10 list. Number 7, Sister Fried and Father Ariandel. This might be the only fight that does the 1v2 scenario better than Ornstein and Smo. The first phase pits you against Fried in a small but maneuverable area. It's also good because she keeps her entire moveset from this phase when you fight her again 1v1 in the third phase. The second phase brings Ariandel into the fight, as well as increasing the size of the arena. During phase 2, it's best to lure Father Ariandel away from Frieda and smack away at his health. Frieda plays this phase very passively, allowing you to be able to kind of punish Ariandel as you please. And she even pauses to heal him, and depending on how much damage you're doing, you can just attack and outdamage her heal. Once Ariandel goes down, you enter phase 3, and boy, it is beautifully horrifying. Fried summons black fire that absolutely decimates your health. My only complaint with this fight is Fried sometimes feels too quick for Dark Souls 3 combat, but looking back it was honestly a nice change of pace, and you can still punish her if you have good timing. Oh man, I was already an emotional wreck after having to fight Sif in the base game, but having to fight Artorius was just another shot in the gut. Artorius was one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn, and he traversed into the abyss to take on Manus and try and defeat the darkness. He ended up failing, and in his final act, used his great shield to protect his wolf companion Sif. Artorius ended up failing and becoming a vessel for the darkness. From one point of view, he is somewhat conscious of his actions and acts as a gatekeeper to make sure people won't fail where he did. This fight was my favorite in Dark Souls 1. Artorius is agile and does a ton of damage. It was a shame to see what happened to this legendary knight, but I'm glad we were the ones to finally put him out of his misery. This fight felt truly unique in my playthrough of Dark Souls 1, and it was my favorite of the game, and lands just outside of the top 5. Now this is a dragon fight done right. Don't get me wrong, I loved the Calamite fight from Dark Souls 1, and it is definitely an honorable mention for this list, but this fight takes everything from that encounter and does it better. It was cool seeing Go 360 no-scope Calamite out of the air, but it was even more enjoyable having a mini boss encounter with Midir to knock him down into the pit where the actual boss fight would happen. The hitboxes on Midir are, in my opinion, without flaw. You can hit him anywhere and do damage, but you definitely want to take Thanos' opinion and go for the head, and as you do much more damage. You also only take damage from his actual attacks, and not from getting hit by random parts of his body. His attacks are telegraphed, but quick enough to still catch you off guard, and he can shoot a freaking laser out his mouth. What isn't to like about this boss fight? Number 4, Orphan of Kos. I was so nervous leading up to this fight, and rightly so. Orphan is argued among many to be the most difficult fight of all time, and I honestly can't hate on anyone with that opinion. He's relentless, fast, hard-hitting, summons lightning, whacks the crap out of you with the placenta of his mother, who happens to be a great one, all while letting out horrifying shrieks. I can't say enough good things about this boss fight, and it definitely took me the most attempts to beat out of any other boss on this list. Number 3, Slave Knight Gale. Oh man, the final boss in the Dark Souls series. I didn't play these games as they released, and I still wasn't ready for this fight to be over. I can't imagine how people felt if they played these games as they released. Not only is Gale an amazing boss, but the desolate arena you fight him in only adds to the amazing fight. Gale combines the acrobatic and long-swinging attacks of Artorius with the flailing and quickness of Orphan of Kos, all while arguably one of the best scores in the series plays. Once you get a third of the way through the fight, everything goes out the window. A crossbow, magic, frickin' lightning, and Gale flying around the arena are all thrown at you at once, and it can easily become too much to manage. Gale was, in a lot of ways, the same as our character. He was going around collecting souls for his Leonese painting. When he realized he needed the Dark Soul to complete the painting, he found the Pygmy Lords and began devouring them when he discovered their blood had dried. I truly feel this was a fitting end to the Dark Souls series, and could easily see how Gale is a lot of people's favorite boss of all time. Number 2, Ludwig the Accursed and Ludwig the Holy Blade. When I first walked into Ludwig's arena, I got goosebumps from hearing his OST and seeing the creature he had become. Throughout the entire game, we had learned about Ludwig and Lawrence. To be able to fight against both of them in the DLC of Bloodborne was really special, and Lawrence is definitely an honorable mention on this list. Ludwig was the head of the church hunters who were sent out to Yharnam to fight against the beasts. His bloodlust and rage ended up turning him into a monster and forcing him into the hunter's nightmare. His first phase is just about flawless. He can dash across the entire arena, leap into the air and almost one-shot you, burst your health down with magic, and flail his body and eradicate your HP. The fight only gets better in the second half too. He stands on his back legs and wields the ever-famous Moonlight Blade. The horrifying monster now more resembles the once great hunter. He swings his Moonlight Blade and can quickly 100-0 you if you aren't careful. Ludwig was my favorite boss from Bloodborne, and was very close to being my favorite boss in the entire series. Number 1, Yishun the Sword Saint. I've heard many people say Yishun has forever given them nightmares, and I can't say I blame them. This boss is tough. Not only does he have a diverse moveset, but he will often change the timing on attacks, forcing players to be aware of when to parry. In Phase 2, he pulls out a giant spear and can hit you from ridiculous range while rushing after you and pulling out a freaking Glock. In Phase 3, he summons lightning, and I'm starting to sense a trend of amazing bosses made by From Software summoning lightning. Getting to fight this literal legend that has been talked about all game, and in reality caused an army to wait until he died to invade, was amazing. Yishun coming back to life in his prime and defending the honor of his grandson Genichiro. This fight, mixed with the combat of Sekiro, has put the game on top of all the games mentioned in this list. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I wanted to put this together to showcase just some of the amazing boss fights this series has to offer. Some honorable mentions include Calamite from Dark Souls 1, Dancer of the Boreal Valley and Pontiff Sullivan from Dark Souls 3, Marta Ligarius and Lawrence from Bloodborne, and Owl Father and Demon of Hatred from Sekiro. Any of those bosses could have easily been on this list. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like. Let me know what you agreed or disagreed with in the comments, and until next time, I will see y'all later. Peace.